let's say we build a few things. Right, we build things, and let's say I want to create something that is more like a more flowy, more liquid, like a cloth. Maybe this is a table and I want to drape a cloth on it. Maybe it's a curtain, I want to hang a curtain. And yes, you can use loft and maybe even like just brute force model it. But why would you want to? Because when this is the modern era class, and we do have more better methods to handle lots of these kind of things. So in Maya, in particular, we have what's called as physics, and it's under this category called FX, that is special effects. That's what it means. So this might be your entrance into the first look at using special effects. So here it is. Let's say these are some objects that I want to drape the cloth on. In fact, just to give you my idea of what I'm talking about, let's say there should be a floor, right? Maybe there's a floor involved that you have, and here's a table. This is the top of the table. And what I'm trying to do is I'm going to just drape a cloth on top of this. Okay, so this is how you do it. Let me make that first. Let's make that cloth. So you might make it in a number of ways, like this. Actually, not any number of ways. It's generally a flat thing. And maybe you have a round carpet, and so you make a round carpet. But the difference is, and here's the only place you'll ever hear me say this, is that for this particular object, we need to increase the polygons. So, all right, very, very heavily. In fact, you know that actually the 50 is not the final number. You can actually plug in pretty much any number you want. And for now, I'll just use 50. Yeah, 50 should be sufficient. This level of detail is sufficient. Okay, now let's apply physics. So the first thing we want to do is this: on the object that we want to let fall. Right, so notice I'm positioning it above everything because I'm going to let it just fall on this. So on the object that I want to fall, that is the cloth, I should go to FX and go to N cloth and say create N cloth. Okay, so it has created some strange things, including a small child's t-shirt. It's hanging out here. Okay, fine. So then the objects this N cloth has to fall on and collide on, we need to turn into, under N cloth, passive collider. Say this one. And even for the floor, passive collider. Now I'll tell you this, something very important. It takes, your computers may slow to a crawl, okay, because it takes a lot of computational power. So what you want to do is, when you're doing this, take the objects you want, put it in a separate file, and apply physics, and then take that cloth and put it back into your main file. We'll discuss what that means in a second. But so here it is. We do all this, and what we do is make sure you have a timeline that is pretty long, because we're going to animate it. All right, so make it nice. 500 or 600 is sufficient. And then put this at the front, at the beginning, and simply and just play. You ready? There you go. You can stop it whenever you want, or let it run its course. Okay, you can't really go backwards because it's running a simulation. It's simulation. It's what it's doing. So you should actually, if you don't like what you like, if you find that, okay, I don't, what I'm looking for is something like this, or what I'm looking for is something like this, then do all those changes and then let it play again, and let it do its thing until you feel like you can actually let it play until it'll completely settle. And when you're done, you stop and say, oh, that's what I want. Now there are some settings. So I'll show you what these settings are. In the settings, if you select this object, then go to outputs rigid shape. That is, this is the object you created as a rigid body, correct? So click on the rigid shape, and then here there are some interesting settings. There are many settings, in fact, but I'll tell you the ones that really matter. Bounds. By default is 0. It's a good idea not to put a heavy number onto this. Okay, so just gonna leave it at 0. Friction is 0.1 by default. If you put it at 0, it'll actually cause slippage. It'll actually slip away. And let's see. And actually, you'll have to let me put friction. Actually, why would you want to put friction as 0? So let me increase the friction. Actually, let's put it at 0.5, and here also I'll put it at 0.5. And so what happens is it kind of grabs the cloth stronger. That's what it does. And with 0, it'll just let it just slip around a lot. So it's kind of held it in place pretty faster. Then, and similarly, there's this one called stickiness. Now, stickiness is in real world. Stickiness is different from friction. Friction is wow. Now, friction is the stress, how one object prevents the other object from sliding. Okay, and stickiness is some other substance on it that holds it down. And apparently, you can see the difference. Now I cannot, because I've tried different things. You can't. But these things really matter only when you go really deep into special effects. All right. So those are the numbers that you can play with to get the right result you want. The default works pretty fine as well, I'm going to tell you. All right, once you have what you need, then we'll turn it into, look, see, there's a bunch of things here, right? This can, and besides, this is very dense. We'll have to reduce it. But we'll do all that a little later, because I'm not done with this. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to drape things. Now, how to hang things. Let's say this is part of I want to hang it somewhere, like on a point, for example, like curtains. Well, this is let's do it. First, create a hook, and that hook can be something very like these sort of polygonal things. And we'll position it right here. Okay, I'm gonna hook it up right there. All right. So now note that this is already an cloth. This is already these are all has been set up to be rigid bodies, right? What is it? Passive colliders. Now I'm going to hook this into this other thing. So this is what you do. Right click, select the vertices of this cloth that I want to hook. Then hold on Shift and select this object. Okay, Shift and select that object. Then you go to not end cloth, but you go to end constraint and say point to surface. Great. Now let's play it. Awesome, isn't it? Now you can say, oh, I need 2 of these. I like it. So I want 2 of these things. All right, so let's do that. 2 of these. I'm going to snap it to this. And then I'm like, wait, I need 3. Great. So vertex, select, point to surface, select, point to surface, and let's see. Great. All right, guys. So you understand how this works now. Now you see how it's kind of that force took it off. So maybe if you don't want it to be pushed, so pulled around so much, just increase the friction. Okay. Now one final thing. You can. The weird thing is you can actually even animate. Not that you need to do this, but you can animate these things. So which means, let's say I want a peculiar effect. Create an object. This matters only, especially if you have taken the animation class. So you'll actually be able to appreciate it or actually do it well. So here it is. I took an object and I'm going to just run it into this cloth, okay, and create an interesting shape. So here's this and cloth. I make it a passive glider, and then I'm going to animate it. How? One keyframe there and another keyframe, maybe here. So it actually will pass through, okay? Right, so let's make sure it passes through. Okay, good. Now let's run it. Now, if it goes too fast, it'll actually break it apart. So if you want to get a very subtle effect, you need to make it slow. That is key. And you can make it stop exactly where you want it to stop if you want. Let's see what happens here. You see? And after a while, it'll actually tear through. Oh, but if it's slow, it won't. It'll actually let the cloth, it'll pass through the cloth, and there you go, something like that. I stopped it. Perfect. So you can create some pretty complex shapes now, see? All right. So let's see what we did so far. So I have written this all out. So first things is to take the cloth and make it make this an end cloth. Then make this and this a passive collider, right? And it's under effects, under end cloth. All good? Then you run it. Wait, did I say run it? Okay, I'll just I'll put a couple more notes here. Right. The next thing we did is we talked about how to make something hang, make this end cloth, then select the vertex and then this object and turn it in under end constraint is point to surface. Here, let this happen, and we'll talk about this later. Then I show how to animate things. Got it? Great. The last thing we need to do is once you're done with whatever object you created, you need to take it. Now I'll tell you this what I just did will take much longer to do in your own scenes because it's got a lot of stuff. So it's best to do this separately. Now, when you're done with this whole thing, it's time for you to take what you need from this. And this is what you do. Select the object you want, the cloth, and Control D to duplicate and pull it out. So what got pulled out is a copy of this, but without any of the complications. Like, see, this one is your authoring system. it has all this crazy stuff. But at the end of the day, this is what you really need. So you take that. Got it? If you don't like that, take another one. Control D. Great. Now, next thing to do is, this is very high in density, so we need to reduce it while keeping its characteristics. So go back to modeling, mesh, and go to say reduce, options, and by the default, it's basically you're just reducing a certain percentage. So I can take, let's say, 10%. I'll take off 10%, another 10%, another 10%, another. I'm like, see, only after a long time will it actually begin to lose its shape. But there's a lot of, somewhere around here. So I'm going to reduce, and just kind of decide for yourself when it still has most of its qualities and without breaking up too much. And so you see, you get a nice low-res object consistent with the condensity of the rest of the objects. And there you have it. Now, I'm going to ask you this.